Thank you for joining us today for our presentation. We're working on collection designs for fashion, and students can work on creating their own developed line, if they want to, in a number of different ways. Today we're going to do a fun one that works with creating a theme for the collection, and I'd like to start by looking at the actual collection subject areas. For example, in France, years ago in history, they created the 4 collections that we now work with today, and these have evolved over time, starting with fall and winter. So here's a collage that shows the basics of the 4 collections. You'll see with fall and winter, we have the theme of autumn, the colors of autumn and winter. Usually deep, rich colors are common. A lot of foliage is typical with the leaves falling in the autumn. And when we get into winter, you see a lot of more warm kinds of clothing. So fur coats, all kinds of wool fabrics. Boots are very fun and popular. We have turtlenecks, different kinds of sweater knits. So a lot of different fabrications are possible in the fall, along with a wonderful array of rich color. So our fall-winter is a key area for the collection beginning, and you can actually let students choose which collection, as we discuss these, that they want to work with. So going over to our holiday is the next collection, and this is a fun one for many students because they actually like being able to work with the fancy fabrics, the glittery kinds of styles, the different types of ruffle designs, the evening look, even a casual at-home look for the holiday time is really great. This collection is exemplified by, of course, the wreath for Christmas. We also have Hanukkah at that time of year. Other celebrations include New Year's, and New Year's Eve is probably one of the biggest ones for manufacturers and retailers because a lot of people are getting fancy clothing to wear out for that special evening. So in addition to the holiday theme, you'll see elegant gowns during that time. You might see evenings out to the theater where they're wearing more elegant clothing, a lot of velvets and rich colors in that format. So this is our second collection, which is holiday. Our third collection then moves into what we call cruise resort. And this is a time when Americans and Europeans actually love to be able to take vacations. They typically go on cruises to the Caribbean, other French Riviera areas, and many places around the world where they need different types of clothing. And cruise resort is the one category where anything goes. You can actually pack a bag and have an evening gown for sitting at the captain's table, or you can have shorts for a day at the shopping areas. You can also have swimwear for the beach. You can also have a number of casual clothes, yet durable things like jeans and sweatshirts or hoodies to go for a hike in the mountains. So any number of things are possible. With the cruise resort collection, my example shows more of the tropical theme in prints for the fabric on the skirt and the little bra top for the swimwear. I found a photo to kind of go with that theme, obviously with surfboards, because that's a popular sport, and sports are a very important part, and sportswear clothing is a very important part of the cruise resort collection. Then to round out the 4, we go to spring summer, which is a lot like cruise resort in the fact that it involves warmer weather and clothing of that type. But you'll notice here we have just a fun little sundress. She's sporting her little tote bag for shopping. And we get into the casual outdoor living, which is barbecues in the backyard, swim parties, that kind of thing. So spring and summer can be anything from dress up a little bit to really mostly very casual kinds of clothing. So these are the 4 choices for collection ideas or collection categories. And now we want to work digitally to have some fun in putting together the basis for creating a theme and color choices for a collection. Here we are at the computer station, ready to open a Word doc. The Word doc is going to give us a foundation to place some things from picture sources and also to create some color choices for the collection. So we start by just opening a Word doc, and here I have a blank one set up to go. I'm going to click on it so we have it full screen. And our next step is to go to the layout at the top bar and click on margins. And then go down to the narrow margins because we want as much space on the table on the page as possible to set up a version of a table and a photo. So now that we have our Word doc established, we're going to be going to Insert. This is across the top bar. You see File, Home, and Insert. So Insert allows us to choose pictures. And if we don't have pictures on our computer directly, then you can go to Online Pictures, which is where I want you to go if you are planning to do a specific theme. Here are a number of ideas that are set up by the Word program itself, and you can choose something like fruit with an apple. You can choose flower, a number of different flowers, and there are other options. I'll go into the flowers here. Look at all the colorful array of flowers that you can work from for a theme for a collection. And it doesn't mean you have to use flowers in your theme, but it does mean you want to work with the flower colors to create a source for developing your theme. And you can also come up with a collection name that has some relativity to flowers, or it may be an individual collection name. I have some examples that I'm going to show you as well, and I actually went to a category called sunsets. So we'll go out of this for a moment. And here's a photo that I found in looking through sunset choices from the Online Pictures. And all you have to do is save your photo to the page. You actually download it and attach it to the page. You can start, if you want, on the Word program with a text box and enlarge it, and then just fill it into the text box. I even have a border around this one that kind of gives a red highlight surrounding the sunset. And as you can see, all the array of colors here, I named the collection Sunset Style. And then my collection garments are going to follow that same theme. Probably I would use a cruise resort collection as my choice, because when you think of sunsets and beaches, you typically think of vacation time. So it works very well together. You'll notice a little bit below the actual sunset photo are the text box which pictures the various collection colors that I've selected. And here again, we create a text box and make just a small square in the area below. I chose black because black is a good basic, and a lot of students and people in general love to work with black because it goes with everything. The little black dress is something you could easily have for evening, and black is very serviceable because it doesn't show wear and tear as much, so that's an easy choice for a collection. The yellow had to be in there because it's summer and sunshine and definitely warmer temperatures. I chose the purple because of the wonderful effects of the sky and the clouds there. The pink is also a version of the clouds that are displayed in the photo. And then I went for a few deeper colors with a rich fuchsia kind of pink or a hot pink. And then this is a very dark purple, almost a burgundy purple, which was in the water, or the expression of the water from the color selection. Okay, so let me give you a few more examples now, and we'll go to specific versions that students have created for me. We'll start with this nature swipe. And this one shows the floral picture at the top. Again, this student was choosing flowers for her nature swipe, and she wanted to do a more personal theme, so her name starts with a K, and she did K Lookout for her theme. You can see her swatches below that she's chosen. Obviously that purple is right obvious there in the front with the flowers, and the greenery from the flowers work well together. She has two blues from the sky, the darker blue and the lighter blue. She also has yellow from the hillside and black as a basic. And these have been nicely displayed here with a good balance. We basically choose between 5 and 7 colors from the Nature Swipe to create a theme for the portfolio and the collection. So let's take a look at another version. This next one is a winter scene, and this student loves wintertime because of all the rich color in winter and also because of the holidays. So her Nature Swipe is called Twilight Winter as her category, and you can see the winter snow here on her picture, an evergreen tree covered with snow on its branches, and probably this is at sunrise when the sun is just coming up to cast a number of beautiful colors onto the scenery there. And she's chosen kind of a pale peach from the glow of the sunshine. She has the deep rich purple, which you see in the shadows of the snow itself. She has a basic blue, which is visible along the pathway of the snow. Kind of reminds me of snow skiing as you go. Then the rust color, the cream, the dark brown, and of course a deeper blue, all from the picture. Okay, a couple fun ones here to finish out. This one is the roaring water against the rocks, and you'll see a number of colors have come across here. She's calling this Icelandic landscape, and her collection was for fall winter. So you're looking at, again, very rich color and a lot of variety in this dramatic kind of a photo. She's chosen a dull gold color with the rust as a warm pairing, then an olive green and a forest green, and believe it or not, those are actually from the water segments of the photo. Then she's also added white from the snow caps of the water ripples, and a beige color from the hillside, and a basic black once again. That's another great version for Nature Swipe. And our last example, colorful nature category. She went to the Borealis for a beautiful sky scene, and this is quite exciting because most of her theme deals with neon colors and a number of metallic effects. So she's chosen the lavender, the rich pink, you can see from the base of the view in the sunset and the landscape there. Also from the horizon area is the rich purple. She has the neon green, which is a big part of her collection. That's obviously in the sky. The rich deep blue from the sky, and black for night. So these are all versions that work well with the colorful nature category. And after you have created a Nature Swipe and selected colors for your collection, our next step is to go to fabrics. We're going to take a look at one more example of the Nature Swipe with a colorful theme, and this one is labeled Chic Array, which is another collection idea. And the colors are shown here with red, gold, green, brown, black, winter white, and olive. So once you have the colors determined, as I mentioned, next we go to fabrics. You want to find fabrics that exemplify the same colors. So here are the same kinds of fabrics. We have gold in a satin, we have brown in a velveteen, black in a velvet, and this is for winter time, of course. The red is a wool. The green, the darker green here, is more of a cotton poly blend for shirts, and so is the olive green color, and the winter white is again kind of a taffeta type texture so that it can be used as an in-between or blouse type fabric, or even for dresses in the winter. So we've taken now to the next step, which is finding the fabrics for the collection. We'll take a look at some other design ideas next. And going with the winter collection, This is how you display collections. You basically draw the example of the design on the figure and include photos or actual examples of fabric swatches with the figure. The fashion figure shows the actual design and how it's being worn. And then when we get to the pattern making purposes, we draw what are known as flats. And the flats demonstrate line drawings of each garment so that the pattern maker knows how to construct the actual patterns. So this is for fall and winter. There are a number of pieces in that ensemble. Next we have holiday, and these are the fabric colors for the holiday segment. You'll see lots of glitter versions here. For holiday, we have a satin dress and the flat and the fabric shown with it. Going on to cruise resort, and this is our multiple category. We have a simple pant ensemble with a tunic top, just a simple blue fabric, perfect for a cruise. And examples of the flats as well. Going to spring summer. Oops. We have our suit ensemble, great for a spring work day or a dressy occasion, and the ending flats with it. So this is basically your collection display for a portfolio. You want to have all three components: the fashion figure wearing the outfit, the fabric swatches that go with it, and the flats that show the pattern maker's version of the garment. We're now taking a look at CROQUIS that you're going to have available in your packet of items that I'm preparing for you with the presentation. And these are all female CROQUIS. We are starting to create a more diverse collection of options so that we have African American, we also have Asian, we have a number of different looks for all students to enjoy. These are female versions. I'm also including male versions for you if you work with those in your student classes. The versions have different poses. You can see from left to right, there's a turned walking pose. There is just a general side pose. Here's the hands on the waist pose, which is common, and the last one is a back view pose. So they give a lot of variety, and you can actually mix and match. If you want to use one head and face with a different pose, you can kind of switch them around. But in croquis work, we actually draw, usually with a paper on top of it or a piece of tracing paper and a light box beneath, because that's the most effective way to use it so that the lines don't show. But here's a little tip. If you work with markers, you'll find that markers can actually cover a lot of those lines, so oftentimes you don't have to worry about even using the light box and the extra paper. To show you an idea of fashion separates, which is what we're kind of creating for the collection today, I'm going to start by just doing a little sketch on a croquis here, and starting with a version of top. I'm just putting this like a little off-the-shoulder type style with a ruffle. And I'll show you how easy it is to create a format for the designs, especially for those who are willing to work directly in the marker. I know students oftentimes want to draw in pencil first. So there's our first little top, and we'll go and add just a few little effects that will make it show up more with the dark contrast here. And this just blouses at the waist and then has the off-the-shoulder ruffle. Then we want to create a skirt that coordinates with it. So we'll build that down smoothly to the hip with our yoke. And here we'll actually be coloring in to create some shadow and contrast for the three-dimensional perspective. And let's add a little bit of a flounce down here as well. I always say draw the hem into the skirt so that you can then add the folds from the hem upward. To create the type of flare that we want this design to have. Okay, and there is our little two-piece ensemble with the blouse on top and the skirt. And then it's just a matter of adding a little bit of color to the hair. So our model starts to look more realistic. And we can add a few other features. Again, more three-dimensionality is what I'm doing now. I'm giving her a little orange suntan, or sunburn if you want to look at it that way. But it's easy to draw right onto the croquis to have a three-dimensional result. And I'm just going to give her some little sandal shoes, which, by the way, these croquis are made for the tall high heels that are so much fun. There we have it. So our simple collection is already underway. Next, let's go to patterns and make that pattern. Here is our pattern segment. We're going to start with the skirt pattern because it's a basic smooth fitting yoke from the hip upward, and then below is a flare that goes very full at the hem. So I've created a very easy way to do this with what we call the slash method of pattern making. And you're probably also familiar with the pivot method, but to me the pivot method is a little limited in its use, and it's also a lot harder to comprehend when you're just learning to make patterns. With the slash method, you can easily see what's happening on the paper, and you kind of understand the process of building the pattern a little bit bigger. So the first step that we're going to follow here is noticing the hip line on the pattern itself, and I'm going to draw dots about an inch from the edge on both sides, or circles as I call them. Just going to do 4 of them here at kind of an equal distance. And now that I have 4 dots situated, I want to connect those with vertical lines to the hem, because what we're going to do is release the lower portion of the skirt to be made into the flare segment. So I'm going to just do lines drawn down, and these are slash lines as we call them. And the next part is the fun part because we're going to slash and spread them. And with this, we're going to use our little dots as guides. So I'll explain that as I get there, but I'm going to start from the bottom hem and slash up to the hip line. And when I get to the dot, I'm not going to slash into it, but I'm actually going to go over towards the edge and clip towards the edge. That lets us open up the pattern to the side with flare. I'll do the same thing on the outside one over here. And by the way, we will put a seam down the center front for this particular pattern. So even though it's the center front marking, it's going to have a seam there. And as I say, we cut to but not through that little leverage point there. Okay, we have two others that we need to also slash and spread. So I'm going to do them going up to the dot or close to it, and then angling to the opposite dot at the side. So now you can see I'm going to have two slash areas coming out. Same thing for this one. And we'll slash over towards our other circle. All to but not through. If I slash through, then I have to put tape back on it to make it work. Okay, let's tape them in place so we can now flare outwards. And I'm going to do fairly equal flare on both sides. If it's not exactly identical in measure, which you can take the time to measure with your ruler and have equal segments, but it's all going into the same fullness at the folds of the skirt. So here is our flare built into the skirt, and we can actually leave the pattern as a one-piece pattern if we want, that's fitted at the hip and then continues into the flare, or we can separate the pattern at the hip and add a seam line there. Maybe we want to make the yoke in a different color of fabric or a patterned fabric, and we want the skirt to be full or even in a contrasting fabric. So our last step here would simply be to add the grain line, which again we'll use our ruler for that, and we want the straight of the grain to be pretty much in the center. So we'll place arrows at both ends here for the grain line. We still have our center front label on the skirt. We can add a little CF here for the center front designation on the upper yoke of the pattern, and we'll continue to add seam allowances all the way around. Notches are already present, so we can just use the existing notches that are on the skirt, and then we'll add a small hem allowance, which is probably going to be a turned and stitched version. So here's the pattern for our first one, the little skirt that has gathers and, or I'm sorry, flare instead of gathers.
Good.
We're concluding our segment by actually doing a fun drape. This is with knit fabrics today on the dress form. And it's to show you that you can create any number of things without even having an idea in mind in advance. I have a couple fabrics I'm going to work with today. This is a simple black knit. So I'm going to start it by draping it as kind of a strapless type design. So I'm just folding down the top of it a little bit here so I can get a decent length on the dress form. And I've kind of centered it as well so that I can put pins to anchor across the bodice. And I'm doing a full round the body drape that will connect in the back. So as you can see, I've pinned already from the one side, and now we'll bring the other side across to match it. This gives us a little bit more fitted shape on the dress form for our little black dress number. And I want to create a little bit of drama here in the front, so I'm going to do a radial kind of effect, which gives folds in the center. I'm actually just pulling upward on the fabric. I'll put a couple pins to anchor here, because this creates the folds from both sides and also kind of a front pleat with the drape. Next, I want to add something dramatic for our look. So we're going to a metallic fabric, and this is just a random piece that I happen to run across. It's kind of triangular in effect. So I'm going to work with it to do what we call a sculptured shaping. And because it has kind of a two-tone effect, I'm going to twist it and put it across our top. I think we'll go with the diagonal. I'm liking that effect. I'll come back to this once I get it anchored here at the shoulder. So this would be a gathered area at the shoulder. And we would probably pleat this section in order to hold the gathers securely on the form and the individual when the time comes. Okay, now doing our twist. I'm going to actually turn it so that I can get a little bit over here. When we talk about sculptured draping, we're talking about shaping with volume, not necessarily fitting snugly to the form, but actually creating a new shape around the form. And I'm going to connect it across the back here. So the actual garment would have this as kind of a sewn feature across the front, and we would place a fastener that opens the area here in the back so that we can get the drape into position and just have an easy closure on it. Okay, just another pin here. And I'm taking it across the shoulder to again, do the radiating drape once again. And there's our drape design. She's ready for an evening out if we were just sewn together. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. I look forward to answering questions for all of you in the future. Thank you so much.